But does it feel like this is like a freaky angle? This is kind of a nasty angle here, where it's like I'm like a child. I'm like a child at Styxhexenhammer's daycare, and my parents leave, and all of a sudden this guy comes, sits down next to me.
All right, everyone. Originally, I assumed it was some sort of diplomatic tactic, but now it looks like Donald Trump may actually be obsessed with the concept.
Does anybody know who Sean Ryan is? Can we be real? I have never heard of Sean Ryan. I've never seen Sean Ryan videos in my YouTube recommended. I've literally never seen Sean Ryan before like a week ago. It's very odd. I've literally never heard of Sean Ryan. I have no idea who it is, but apparently it's some CIA guy who was getting emailed by the killer. He was on some CIA guy, or is some CIA guy who was getting emails about like the Cybertruck guy, from the Cybertruck guy about like aliens. Very odd behavior. I don't know. Because like I'm of two minds where it's people he's been around for 2 years. I believe that, but it's odd that I've never seen any recommendations of him. I've never seen his face. I've never heard his name ever. So it's very odd to me. It makes me very suspicious that like people are being siloed off to where like certain groups are being siloed off, like me and other people, from seeing his content, not to see his content, from seeing his content. So we can't just make fun of it while it's there, and then one day it just pops up for everybody. It's like, oh, you don't know about Sean Ryan? Did you know about Sean Ryan? Dude, I've never heard of the name. Unless maybe it's a different timeline. Maybe I'm shifting into a different dimension.
Greenland. I would generally agree with this. It's perfectly fine for the United States to expand, and Greenland is a territorial colony anyway of the Danes. So if you can purchase it because of its energy resources and the inability of the Danish government to really do much with them, and seemingly the hesitance of the population to actually consider themselves Danes anyway. I mean, if the people of Greenland decide they want to be part of the United States, technically speaking, any country in the world or any group in the world, provincial or whatever, can petition to become members of the United States. Now,
would you guys go to Greenland if it became part of the country? Would you guys become Greenlanders? Yo, thank you, ASAP Blocky. The train starts.
One subscription on Kick.
And the train starts. The subtrain starts. Would you guys go to Greenland? Well, the thing is, isn't Greenland cold and empty and barren? What is the main income? Isn't it like Inuits, like fishing?
United States at its current level.
What's up, Bees? Bees hasn't been around in years. What's up, Bees? How have you been? What's life like?
Annex anyone, because I can't imagine that anyone would want to be part of like Bidenomics and stuff like that with a weak military and so forth. If Trump can reform things, though, yeah, in theory, they can petition to join the United States, and then it's up to Congress to make them a territory, and later on to try to figure out statehood and stuff like that. Greenland would probably be a single state because the population is fairly low. You got a lot of resources. You've definitely got a lot of water frontage, but you don't really have a high population.
Guess the population number.
In fact, I think the population is lower than that of my home state, actually.
Guess the population. The population is 56,000 people. 56,000 people, and 75% of it is covered by a permanent sheet of ice.
But Denmark, I liked it when the Danish prime minister came out and said, oh, this is a crazy idea. Donald Trump is insane. I believe he's a member of the Socialist Party there, by the way. This is probably telling. I found that funny because technically speaking, you're holding a colonial territory. You're a colonialist, effectively. You're being imperialistic now, aren't you? If the United States says, hey, get away from these evil colonialists, we'll protect you, I would think that's a form of liberation now, isn't it? You take over a territory, you don't have to fight a war or anything like that. It's not like Denmark is going to go to war with the United States or anything like that. We're both members of NATO, by the way. We're technically allies. So I have no problem with the Danish people. Some of your food is among the best in the world. Sugar browned potatoes, by the way.
It's an odd camera angle. It feels kind of freaky. It feels kind of, because with this right here, oh, you can't really see it. It looks to me, because of this, you still can't see it. It's kind of crazy. See this right here? It's giving me like a weird vertigo because it feels like that's the wall. That feels like a ceiling. But actually it's just the wall. He's just sitting against the wall. But for whatever reason, it felt to me like it was like a ceiling. You know what I mean? It felt like you were like a kid, and you're looking up at like a giant.
Absolutely exquisite. As long as you make them with real butter. If you try to make them with margarine, they're not going to come out very well. Mom tried to do that one time. It was a sticky situation, quite literally. Denmark is pretty based. I mean, I have no problem with Denmark, but you did kind of imperialize this vast area of land, claiming it as your own.
25090 graphics card today. Are they coming out today?
Separatistic anyway.
Are 5090s out today?
Like in the Netherlands with the Frisians, Friesland does not consider it itself fully part of the Netherlands at all. They have their own dialect, their own language. It's separate from Dutch and English that they tend to preferentially speak. They will speak Dutch, and most of them do speak English, but they have their own separate dialect, so they can, talk about the tourists behind their backs. I know that some of the francophone Quebecois who have come to Vermont, not knowing that there was somebody around who at least was reasonably conversational in French, they were definitely insulting some people in the restaurant a couple of times. This has happened to me. The Danish may be pretty cool, but you did imperialize Greenland, absolutely. It's mainly populated by people who are effectively Inuit, actually, more than anything else. More Viking influence in Iceland. Nobody else had really bothered with it, and Iceland is a little bit more developed in the agricultural sense anyway. I would love to visit it someday. Greenland has a vast amount of resources. By the way, it is much smaller than you see on your map, if you're looking at one of those. Most people think that it's enormous. Oh my God, it's the size of Canada. Well, no, that's because of the projection of the map. It's not actually that big. But it does have a lot of resources in it.
I played Indiana Jones with DLSS on, and everything had a weird blur. Yeah, but why are you playing Indiana Jones? Why are you playing video games? Why would you play video games? How old are you?
There are a huge number of minerals there.
We don't graphics are not actually that important. Like, let's look at some of the best games ever: Warzone, PUBG, MotoGP 3, those sort of games. Tarkov, and the graphics aren't amazing, but they're fun. And it's not about the graphics. Graphics is kind of a misnomer. And they kind of suck, honestly. It sucks, You don't need, or Titanfall 2. Like, you don't actually need crazy graphics. You just need fun gameplay, but they don't really do fun gameplay anymore.
Much of it is effectively unexplored. It can be exploited for human gain, and the population...
I'm 42 and divorced, W.
...could become quite wealthy, actually, if this were done. Denmark does not have the kind of resources necessary to really fund the kind of projects that you would need in Greenland in order to actually do so. So I do support the buying of Greenland.
I don't support it. It's crazy that Europeans never got together and were like, well, let's extract the resources from Greenland. Like, America does it all the time with, like, whatever, shale and whatever, oil. But Europeans never came together and like, well, there's so much lithium and so much other stuff, natural gas in Greenland, let's take it out of there. Let's use it. Like, is this just far into the European mind to, like, use things?
But I don't expect it to happen. I think it's a pipe dream. I think that the Danes would stand against it. The EU would stand with the Danes, and because Orange Man bad, basically. Although I would say if enough of the population of Greenland did want that, technically, because they are a semi-autonomous territory, they would be able to vote to attempt to join the United States. It is within our legal framework. If they were to do so, this would set up a huge struggle, by the way. Oh, it would be legendary. It would be hysterical. It'd be like the great powers going at it once again, just like World War I or something like that, only without an actual war. Because the Danes would say, well, you're our territory. You're not allowed to leave. The United States would say, under our laws, they are allowed to leave, and you've granted them semi-autonomy to begin with anyway, so what are you complaining about? Plus, what are you going to do about it? We send one aircraft carrier over, and it's effectively over, because you're not going to do anything. You wouldn't dare. You're in NATO. Also, our military is like 10,000 times larger than yours, so you'd be even under DEI. It's that much more advanced. It would be incredible. You know, you send a couple of A-10s over, and I bet the Denmark
A-10Is?
back down.
A-10s, like A-10Is?
Actually, at some point.
Or planes.
Incredible, but it's actually a plausible scenario. That's the funny part about it. It's actually possible that this might happen. I had thought originally the Greenland thing was mainly, hey, you know, pony up your NATO money, basically. Telling the European Union, pony up more cash, get to 2% of GDP at least, and then everything's fine. Sort of with the other things that Trump has mentioned, with the exception of Panama. I think that's a big ask. I think that the idea is the United States will retain some sort of limitation zone around the canal. I would advise sweeten the deal, pay off their national debt, build a fucking base, increase the lock capacity, and call it a day. With Greenland, it's more about resources, though. And so I'm beginning to think that Trump might actually be serious about this. Like maybe when he posted that meme with Trump Tower literally on the shores of Greenland, maybe that's actually something that he intends to do. It could actually, I mean, under any other president, I would think, oh, this is just some sort of bargaining tool or something like that. With Trump, I'm actually not 100% sure honestly.
It's a freak.
That's about all.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Should we get Greenland or what? If we get India, slip of the tongue. If we get Canada, it's over. Like, there's no escape. If we get Canada, it's over for America. It's done. It's done. Okay.